Hello and welcome back to the next segment, part 2 of this week's episode. And this hour we're going to talk about security and the illusion of security and just exactly what those are. Now, folks, you should know by now, it's 2014. We've been playing this illusion of security game in the United States of America for going on 10, 12, 13, 14 years, what have you. I've been providing professional security pretty much my entire life. I did security for the Marine Corps. I was part of the Security Forces Battalion. We did nuclear weapons security. I've been a police officer, which isn't so much security. It's more law enforcement, but it's community policing. And then I worked for over a decade as a professional bodyguard. I was educated and trained to be a professional bodyguard, and I did it for a good long time. I've done professional security. And one of the things that I learned early on in my career is when people throw the word security around, most of the time they don't know what they're talking about. Or when people say security, what they really mean is the illusion of security. And let's talk about that for a second. Now, when we talk about security, you need to understand this, that genuine security requires the following. It requires that you actually analyze the potential threat. What is the threat? Is it robbery? Is it kidnapping? Is it murder? What is your potential threat? What are we trying to secure ourselves from? And then once you've done that, once you've answered that question honestly, then you have to address that and say, okay, if our legitimate security threat is, let's say you're a multimillionaire or you're a public figure or what have you, and you have small children, and you say, okay, my legitimate concern is kidnapping of my school-age children. That is my legitimate concern. Okay, what are we going to do to prevent that from happening, to stop that from happening, to prohibit someone from kidnapping your children? And that is when honesty comes into play. When people talk about bodyguards, like, oh, this guy's got a bodyguard, that guy's a bodyguard, blah, blah, blah. A person who legitimately needs a bodyguard needs 4. They need 4 human beings. And you're like, what, 4? No, I just need 1. One guy to walk in front of me in crowds. Okay, the guy walking in front of you in the crowd is not a bodyguard. Okay, that's like a traffic cop. Okay, that is or a bullet sponge. I'm sure you guys have seen plenty of bullet sponges if you watch TMZ or whatever, and your favorite singing sensation or your favorite movie star or what have you. They have an overly large individual that walks in front of them in crowds. Okay, the overly large individual that walks in front of them in the crowd, that's not a professional bodyguard. That is a bullet sponge. That dude is there to absorb enough bullets to keep them from hitting you so you can get away, so you can skitter away. Those aren't professional bodyguards. Sorry if it hurt your feelings. Too bad. The reason that you need 4 is because bodyguards are human beings. Bodyguards have to eat. They have to sleep. They have to go to the bathroom. Sometimes they get sick. They need days off. So a person that needs legitimate bodyguard protection needs a minimum of 4 human beings. And you're like, whoa, to pay 4 people is a lot of money. I don't want to pay 4 people. I just want to pay 1. Well, okay, you can just pay 1 overly large guy who wanted to play football but couldn't really play football, so now he's just a big guy occupying a lot of real estate. Ergo, he is a bullet sponge. And so what that person becomes is they become the illusion of security versus genuine security. And we see that throughout our entire society. When you have a 68-year-old grandmother in a polyester uniform in a casino and her shirt says security on it, ask yourself, is the 68-year-old grandmother in the casino with a polyester uniform on and a little patch on her shoulder that says security, is she actually providing security to the patrons, or is that person the illusion of security? Well, it's the illusion of security, obviously. And the reason I decided to do this was because we're talking about, we talk about active shooter situations. We talk about situations where people are put into harm's way. And not always, but quite often when a crime occurs, when an active shooting occurs, when a felony occurs, when something happens like that, you can go back and take a look at the situation and say, okay, this happened because of the following, because there was not an active security measure. Now, it doesn't mean you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you did something wrong, but there was an opening. There was a hole there. And why are there openings and why are there holes? Because legitimate security requires dedicated effort, and generally it's relatively costly. It costs money. When you have a business that has quote-unquote security guards, let me tell you how security works. You go to your local mall, you go to your local business, you go to anywhere, they have these polyester guys standing around in polyester uniforms. Like I said, I've been doing this for a long, long time. I know of which I speak. Security is lowest bidder service. That means that the business, the restaurant, the mall, the security, the store, whatever, the store, what they do is they shop around to the various security providers in the area. They get bids. They pick the lowest bid, and they contract that company. It's lowest bidder services. The guy who's standing there is there because his company was able to low bid their next competitor. That's why he's there. He's not there because he is the most highly trained, highly skilled, best educated person available for the job. Almost never is that the case. Now, is it sometimes? Could it be the case? Could a company decide, you know what, we're going to spend whatever it takes to get the absolutely best trained individuals possible? Could that happen? Yes, it could happen. Does it happen often? No, sadly, it does not. Now, a good friend of mine, my friend Mike, actually sent me a link to this story, and I'm glad that he did, because it says how hospital administrators can contribute to ED violence. That's emergency department violence. And it's a pretty detailed story. We'll put the links in the show notes for you guys, as we always do. And I didn't remind you about that last time. But when we're talking about news stories, when we're referencing specific sources, Jared will go to studentofthegunradio.com, and he will put those in there for you. So if you want to go back to him and say, hey, what's the story? Or I remember Paul said something about this Maryland mall shooting, or he said something about this story, but I want to speak intelligently about it. You can go to studentofthegunradio.com, and you can find the show notes, and the links to the stories will be in there. Well, essentially what this article says is it's what I already knew, that what you have is you have hospital administrators that view the security department or security as basically or essentially a necessary evil. And let me tell you I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a personal story. 6, 7, 8 years ago, however many years ago it's been, I think about 8 years ago now, I took the job as the security provider or the head of security for a small hospital. And when I got that job, I called my good friend Walter Roush. And Walter was a former Secret Service agent. He's been an investigator and so forth. Been around the block more than once. And I was talking to him about my new position. And he said, he asked me, he goes, do they have an inspection coming up? Or a certification coming up? And I was like, I don't know. He said, well, here's the deal. He goes, Paul, they hired you for your resume. Because I was a certified police officer in the city that this hospital was. I was a cop and, badge carrying police officer. But I was not working full time for the department at the time because, quite frankly, in small town America, cops don't make very much money. And most of the time, if you want to make any kind of money or raise a family, you have to do another job. So anyway, long story short, I was talking to Walt and he said, here's what they did. He goes, Paul, they hired you for your resume because they probably have an inspection coming up or a certification coming up. And I was like, oh, okay. I said, well, they told me that they were concerned about this, that, and the other. They were concerned about this area and this area. And he said, okay, that's cool. Let me know how it works out for you. Well, I got to work for them, and I found out that they had a Joint Commission Inspection, or JCO. And one of the checklists on the JCO is the security department. And in order to be a certified medical facility, a certified hospital, you have to pass this inspection. And one of the areas that you have to pass is the security inspection. And so they sent the investigator around, and I walked with him and showed him and told him everything about our plan. And he's like, okay, he's real happy. We passed the inspection. Go team. Good job. Well, what I found is as it progressed, I'll give you a good for instance. We had a closed circuit television system, a CCTV monitoring system in the hospital. One of the cameras went out. Not a good thing, right? So you're thinking, well, you replace it. It's part of the existing security system. So I go through my chain of command and I say, hey, we need to get this replaced. And okay, well we'll take a look at it. We'll get bids, or we'll price it. No, it's part of an existing system. You don't bid and price it. You just get a new component and you replace it. That's like saying, well, the door handle's broken on that door. We need to fix it. Well, before we can replace it, we need to go out and get bids and find out which the cheapest door handle is going to be. No, you replace it as part of an existing system. When I left that hospital 18 months later, camera number 9 was still out. And you say, well, why is that? Because to college-educated administrator-type people who live comfortable lives, security is a necessary evil. It's not something that they want. And when I became a security professional 20 years ago or so, one of my instructors told me, he said, here's the deal. He said, people don't want security. They don't want security officers. They don't want bodyguards. They don't want anybody to do security because you will never turn them a profit. You will always be in the red. You will always be, red ink on their ledgers. You're never going to turn them a profit. So what they're going to do is they're going to spend as little money as humanly possible or as possible on you. He said they really don't want you to be there, but for whatever reason you are. Now, why am I bringing this all up? Why am I talking about this? Because you, as the American citizen, you as the concerned citizen, as the responsible citizen, need to understand that when it comes to your personal security, your bodily welfare, the welfare of your family, of your children, of your loved ones, no one really cares about your security but you. You're like, oh, no, Paul, the government cares. No, they don't. It's security theater. Do you really believe that the Department of Homeland Insecurity, by hassling little old ladies about bags of grapes and molesting little children, that is security that's going to keep you safe? We've got a link to a story this week. I don't know if we have it in the show notes or not, but it came up where a former Transportation Security Administration employee has come out. And what's the name of the story, Jared? What's the name of it? It's called, Hey, America, we saw you naked and we laughed, or something like that.
Oh, yeah. It was the dude from the
TSA guy who left. And essentially, it confirmed what we've all known all along about these new super cool X-ray machines and how they're vital and critical to the safety of America's airways. And he came out and he told us what we already knew, but he confirmed it. That, yeah, we do use those X-rays to look at well-endowed women. And if a well-endowed woman comes through and we think she's attractive, we'll gather our buddies around and we'll all look at it. And yes, we will save those pictures. And yes, we will share those pictures. And yes, if we think that you look funny naked, we will laugh at you. So explain to me how humiliating the American flying populace is security. It's not security. It's the illusion of security. They're put there to make the sheep feel good. It's not real security, folks. It's not anywhere close. The only person that is going to be able to genuinely secure you and your family is you. It might hurt your feelings, might make you feel a little bit down and depressed. but it's the fact. Don't expect anyone out there. No one, because security, genuine security, is expensive. You know who has genuine 24-hour round-the-clock security? The president. And how does he get that? Because they spend your money to do it. They spend your tax money to do it. Not you. So you need to understand, be honest with yourself. Be honest with yourself and understand that if you really are genuinely concerned about the security of your family, of yourself, your family, your spouse, your loved ones, that it is up to you and you only to take care of that. Don't expect anyone else to do it, because most other quote-unquote security is security theater. It's an illusion. The guys walking around the mall with the polyester uniforms on and a little radio and maybe a can of pepper spray, how are they going to stop a jihadist attack? How are those guys in the polyester shirts going to stop a lone turd like the guy in Maryland from walking in with a gun and mowing people down? They're not, because they're low bidder. They're there to just look and to observe and report. That's it. They're not there to protect you. They're not there to stop anything from happening.
Speaking of observe and report, have you seen that movie recently?
Actually, I did. We own it.
Oh, do you?
Mm-hmm.
Wow, I didn't know that. But yeah, I just watched it again a couple weeks ago, and it caught me by surprise again.
It's the movie. If you don't know what we're talking about, it's an R-rated Seth Rogen movie called Observe and Report. It actually didn't get anywhere near the credit it deserved. It's a pretty funny movie. It's kind of dark, but there's a lot of shockers, surprise scenes, things like that in the movie. I recommend it. Don't let your kids watch it, but adults, you can watch it. No,
are there any Seth Rogen movies that aren't rated R?
Oh, they tried to make that stupid Green Hornet movie PG-13 or something. What a horrible.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, Seth Rogen, if you're out there, you owe me 1 hour and 45 minutes of my life back for that turd of a movie.
You don't want
Green Hornet.
You don't want to pull a Stewie?
No. If you're out there, hour and 45 minutes, you owe me. All right, folks, let's move on. We actually have kind of it's one of those weird stories where, and on one hand, you think, well, this is dumb, this has happened. But on the other hand, we want to give him a pat on the back. And an Eastern Illinois police chief, the story title, and we get this from WLWT.com, local news. Indiana police chief accidentally shoots self in the leg. Well, and you're like, here we go again. You know, what's he going to say? It was a broken gun, or was this the holster's problem, or what have you? No, actually, this is kind of almost a go team moment where the police chief was trying out holsters. He was testing holsters with his gun. And you're like, well, why was he testing new holsters with a loaded gun? I don't know. But here's what happened. He was off duty, and he was unfamiliar with the new holster. The trigger caught on some clothing or something caused the handgun to discharge. And here's what he said. He didn't say it was a faulty holster. He didn't say there's something wrong with that gun. We need to sue the firearms manufacturer. Here's what he said. He said, I need to pay more attention. I know what the dangers are, and it was pure carelessness on my part.
What?
Yeah. This dude had an ND. It's not an accident. When it goes bang, it's an ND. And he manned up and said, you know what? I was wrong. I should have paid better attention, and I will in the future. So, hey, this is Chief David Consular of Cornersville, Indiana. And we say, good job for manning up.
You suppose he had a cut in his holster?
No. But, hey, good job. And we, when we see something positive, we're going to point it out. Now, having an ND is not a positive. It doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't make you evil. But it's your reaction. What happens after? Because what do we learn from that chick up in Kentucky? Oh, I'm a gun owner. It happens.
Oh, I thought you were going to say men are never wrong.
Oh. All right. Moving on. Here's some more positive news. Now, this is a positive news. This comes to us from thesunsentinel.com. And it says, Florida lawmakers propose toaster pastry gun freedom act to curb student suspensions. Florida lawmakers want to stop students from getting in trouble just because they pretended their finger or some other harmless item was a gun. Florida House's K-12 subcommittee submitted a law that says simulating a firearm is not grounds for disciplinary action. Hallelujah. Thank you, Lord. Someone has some common sense left in the world. And what I think we need to do is we need to get a copy of this. And we actually, if you go to the show notes, you can look it up. But it says the Toaster Pastry Gun Freedom Act. That's what it's been called.
Yeah. When I read that, I thought that was just a joke. I thought they were making a play on words there. But yeah, that's actually the title.
Yeah. And it says they've proposed this law in, guess where? Maryland.
Where it originated.
Yeah, where it originated. It originated in Maryland, and now it's being put forth in Florida.
No, I meant I'm pretty sure the toaster pastry stupidity was in Maryland. The kid got in trouble.
No. According to this, Jared, no, the source on this one is the sub-source is the Daily Caller, and it says Toaster Pastry Gun Freedom Act is proposed in Maryland.
That's what I said, wasn't it? But I meant
you said they were joking about them. Is that
but
where the toaster pastry thing happened? Was in Maryland?
I'm pretty sure that was in Maryland.
Okay. I don't know. There's been so many ridiculous things happen here in the nation with the finger guns and the fake bow pretending you're drawing a bow and arrow, shooting an arrow, little trinkets, making a little 6-year-old kid sit in the principal's office for 2 hours and pee his pants because he brought a little mini cap gun that was smaller than his thumb to school, because that's obviously bad and the kid needs to be terrorized. So, hey, go team moment there for the both Florida and the People's Republic of Maryland. Now, I don't know how far it's going to get up there in that communist state, but good for them. We think that bill should be photocopied 50 times and sent to every state legislature in the United States of America, even New York and California. I don't know if they'll be able to do it there. But speaking of public schools, now this isn't a gun-related thing. This is what did we tell you about public schools, folks? If your kids go to a public school and you find out that the people that work at the public school are psychologically terrorizing your children, stop acting surprised. It's not a one-time thing. It's not an isolated incident. It's a pattern of behavior that's been going on throughout the entire United States of America. West Virginia, where we think they would know better, they call the sheriff's department to remove a child from school because he has a picture of a gun on his T-shirt. We suspend children for Pop-Tarts that look like guns. We suspend children for pointing a finger that looks like a gun. We terrorize little kids because they have a trinket or a little toy that looks like a gun. We had the kids with the airsoft guns in their own front yard before the bus comes with an airsoft gun, and some ninny calls the police, and they want to charge the parents and the kids for playing with the airsoft toy guns in their own front yard. It's not an isolated incident, folks. It's a pattern of behavior.
So if you could turn or easily convert an airsoft rifle into a fully automatic machine gun, can't you just pull the gun off the shirt and use it to shoot people?
Yeah, you might be able to do that. You might be able to take your shirt off and show people, and they'll like fall to the ground. Apparently, you might just point your finger at them, and they'll wet their pants.
Well, what movie is that where he? Oh, it's The Other Guys or something like that, where he.
One of Will Ferrell's worst movies ever. It was a turd.
The Other Guys?
The Other Guys was a turd. You know
that was Will Ferrell?
Yeah, it was Will Ferrell. And Marky Mark.
Maybe I'm not thinking of that one.
Maybe it wasn't. What are you thinking of?
The one where the heroes
gave him
or it's like an A-team kind of thing. Where the dude's in the elevator and he's singing and the guys and then the other guy snipes through the window, but he's pointing his finger at the dudes and he does the finger gun and the guy snipes at the same time, so it looks like he kills them with his finger gun?
No, I have no idea what movie that is. If you know what that movie that is, go ahead and write P.O. Box 405, Boulder, Colorado, and drop us a note. All right, let's talk about while Jared's trying to figure out his inane or his obscure movie reference. Let's talk about some more psychological terrorism that's going on in your public schools. That's right. According to the Communist News Network, this is the lead story, a Utah school said there was really no such thing as a free lunch. Yes, and you probably have heard about this, but just in case you spent all week living your life and not reviewing the news, we'll go ahead and pick it up for you. Well, dozens of children at a Utah elementary school had their lunch trays snatched out of their hands before they could eat, and the lunch food dumped in a garbage can by the school's nutrition administrator or nutrition officer or what have you. Why? You're just like, all right, now hang on, Paul. Hold on. You're telling me that kids go into the lunchroom, they go through the line, they get food on their tray, they get all the way to the end, and this is an elementary school, little kids, 4th, 5th, 6th grade, 3rd grade. An adult takes their lunch tray from them, dumps the food into a trash can, and tells them this is what they told them: go get a milk and a piece of fruit because your school lunch account hasn't been paid up. Your your digital school lunch account is empty. So we're going to throw your food away and make you sit over there and eat a piece of fruit.
Well, milk and fruit, isn't that a pretty well-balanced meal? I don't see why you're complaining.
Oh, yeah, that's right. And what's the big deal? Folks, are you kidding me? Are you insane? And what's even worse, and this, see, it's not so much that something like this happens, which is wrong, flat out wrong. It's the reaction to it. So when this news breaks and the local news store, reporters go to the school and they ask the administrator, dude, what in the world is going on in your school? Rather than saying and manning up and saying this was absolutely wrong, the person responsible for that has been terminated and will never be allowed around children again. That's the correct answer. Instead, we start making excuses about it was an error or bad judgment. What? Pulling an 11-year-old child's lunch tray out of their hand and dumping it in the garbage in front of them, telling them to go get a milk and sit down is an error in judgment?
Did the parents show up with pitchforks and torches?
And bayonets? They should have. They should have. If they didn't surround that school with bayonets and demand that person be removed immediately, that's wrong. And you're like, well, come on, it's not that easy. Yeah, you're right. It's not that easy. Just give up and surrender, reasonable people. It's bull crap, and it's going on. And if you don't take control of your schools, it's not going to stop. Stop acting surprised when this kind of stuff happens. Are we not getting this? Slow learners? Oh yeah, that's right. It happens over and over and before we come back to the radio again, I would almost bet Jared's paycheck that there's going to be another incident at another public school where children are psychologically terrorized by the adult staff there. But that's going to happen, and what are you slow learners out there going to say? Well, now hang on, Paul. We just can't judge a whole school system based on the actions of one individual person. Bull crap. Bull crap. It's time for you, America, to man up and take your schools back. Well, what are we supposed to do? I don't know. Maybe pay attention. Maybe get involved. Maybe demand that when people do things like this, that they're not just reprimanded. That they don't get away with saying, it was an error in judgment. Bull crap. If you did it, you'd be in trouble. Why do they get a pass? They shouldn't get a pass, and you need to be angry, and you need to stay angry until it gets fixed. If that hurts your feelings, write to Jared at P.O. Box 405, Boulder, Colorado, and he will send you an extra large Band-Aid to put on your hurt feelings.
We had a listener write in and say that we should charge for postage.
Oh, charge for postage for the extra large Band-Aids.
Yeah. Oh, we also we'll send you a report that you can fill out too. We had
Jared's got a hurt feelings report.
Yeah, we had a listener give us a hurt feelings report, and I can't read it on air because it's
not PG.
Yeah, it's not PG, but it is very entertaining, and I appreciate that.
Hey, we got some slave state news for you.
Teach you all the rules. I get to see them set in stone. I like it when you chain me to the bed, but then you see.
All right, this comes to us from guns.com. This story is from guns.com. It says Colorado legislators propose repeal of anti-gun laws as local district ends ban on open carry. And this is good news. This is good news from the People's Republic of Colorado, from occupied Colorado, where, what do we know? We've got a Democrat governor up there, Chicken Looper, and he signed in this egregious, pointless legislation last year that is not going to keep the people any safer. It's just going to subject them to more laws and more restrictions. But according to guns.com, there's two House bills and 4 Senate bills that will include not only the repeal on the magazine prohibition. It also says that the governor cannot restrict firearms ownership or use during emergencies, state emergencies. No background checks for step relations. So if I want to transfer a firearm to my stepson or my stepdaughter, I don't have any of those, but if I did, I could do that without a background check. Repeal the large ammunition capacity magazine ban, and so forth. So there are people up in Colorado who apparently are fed up and sick and tired, and we want to encourage them. Don't stop. Don't rest on your laurels. You're almost there. Take your state back. Take it back. The hippies have got their dope now. All the dope smoking hippies, they're just laying around polluting their brains with THC. So they already voted. They already voted for peace, love, dope. So the next time around, most of these lazy THC-laden hippies, they're not going to get out and vote. What do we know? The reason that so many of these liberal scumbags got elected was because the peace, love, dope hippies went to the polls to vote for pot, and then while they were there, they just checked off all the names with the D's behind them. And so all these scumbags got elected up there in Colorado. And if the word scumbag offends you, Tango Sierra.
Band-Aid.
Band-Aid. All right. So a positive slave state news from our friends at guns.com there. So keep a close eye on that, and hopefully you people up in Colorado can set the example and wrest your control back of your state. Good luck. We wish you good luck on that. And continuing on with slave state news, we're going to go up to the East Coast and up to the People's Republic of New York, where Governor Cuomo is fast at work trying to enslave the entire state. Well, he's got all the rats and rodents that live on Manhattan Island. He's got them all convinced that they should vote for him. And you know, it's like the what they call rule of rats. We've got all these rats that are piled up on top of each other in these large metropolitan areas, and they basically screw over the entire rest of the state. Ergo, Chicago and Illinois, New York City and New York State. Do I need to go on? Well, according to SCOPENY, scopenewyork.org, it says that all but 2 of the upstate New York counties have passed resolutions to oppose the New York quote-unquote SAFE Act. That's right. So essentially what you have is you've got all of the slaves. You have all the comfortable slaves that are piled onto, Manhattan and down there in the New York area, New York City area. They're all comfortable being slaves to the state. And because there's so many of them all piled up on each other, they've been able to, basically, how, if you guys don't know it, if you win Manhattan and New York City, you win the state. That's how it works down there. That's how they got Hillary elected as a senator. It's just is what it is. It's disgusting. But the people in upstate New York are not happy, and they're trying to fight back. Now, the big question is, so a county passes a resolution to oppose the law. What does that mean? Is it binding? Does it have any teeth? Is it just kind of like a letter from the UN that tells you that we're really not happy with you, and if you don't, fix yourself, we're going to send you another strongly worded letter until you do fix yourself? What are the teeth? And we're going to have to find that. We're going to have to wait and see what the teeth are, if they have any teeth, and if they're really serious about it up there in New York. But we hope, hey, we're hoping that you guys will be able to wrest control of your state back. I'm not putting money on it. I'm not betting any money on it, because the facts are, look at New York right now. They just elected a lunatic liberal mayor to replace freaking what's his face? Who do we despise up there? Oh, Nanny Bloomberg. They just if Nanny Bloomberg wasn't enough, we have another liberal lunatic, Blasio or De Blasio or whatever he's called. I don't really care. He's a liberal turd. But yeah, they elected him down there. So we really don't have much hope. We're not holding out much hope for the city of New York. But hey, you folks up there in the occupied slave state of New York, good luck. We hope your bayonets are sharp and that you're ready to go to take back your state. What else we got on tap, Jared? Well, we want to make sure that everybody knows about studentofthegun.com. Don't forget that Jared's always working on new material all the time. He's constantly updating the site. We've got the new books, Armed Living is the name of our DVD. Armed and Smart, A Beginner's Guide to Concealed Carry, and Armed and Smarter, Advanced Concealed Carry Weapons and Training. Both of those books are available right now. And yes, I co-authored both of them. And you know what? I'm going to blow my own horn, or I'm going to blow the horn of the publisher. This is the first time I worked with this publisher. It's Whitman Publishing. And I wasn't really sure what to expect because it was my first, venture with them. But quite frankly, I think the books came out really well. They're full color. They're full, front to back, glossy pages. They're assembled very well, and they're relatively inexpensive. And if you know somebody, and I bet you that if you're listening to my voice right now, you know people that they fall into that new gun owner category. They're like, well, we really felt like, the couples in their mid 40s or mid 50s, and we really felt like we needed to get, a gun or a couple of guns just in case. So they did. They went out and they purchased hardware, and that's fantastic. Now you own the hardware. But that really doesn't help you, or doesn't help you. Or maybe you haven't even purchased the hardware yet, but you're thinking about it. And you're at that point, you're like, but there's so many choices. What should I get? Why should I get it? What am I basing my choices on? Jared, we talked about this off air, and we get, every week we get questions. And what you guys need to do is you need to be honest with yourself. If you're going to ask a question, be honest with yourself and say, are you asking a question and seeking advice, or are you looking for someone to agree with the choice you've already made? And all human beings are guilty of this. Let's face it, we are. All human beings at some point in time are guilty of I'm going to pose it as a question, but what I really want is for you to agree with me. And we get that, Jared gets it probably more often than me, because he is our social media manager, and he gets into the posts and the questions and all that stuff. But if you send in a question that says, what do you recommend for less than lethal, or what do you recommend for concealed carry, or what do you recommend for this? And Jared sends you an answer, and then you write back, you're like, well, yeah, I don't really want that. I've already bought this. Well, are you asking a question? Are you seeking advice, or are you just looking for someone to agree with you? And if you're just looking for someone to agree with you, this isn't the venue to do that.
Maybe this makes me a mean person, but I decided a while ago that I've got a lot of things to do, and I have very little time. And if you are not going to take the advice that I give you, then I'm not going to give you the advice. That's simple. That's as simple as I can put it. If you ask me for advice and then I give you the advice and then you come back and you shoot the advice down, or you give me a reason of why you think that you should, I'm like, whatever, you already made your decision and I don't know how to help you.
Well,
so I'm going to take that attention that I could be giving to somebody that's actually going to listen, and I'm going to give it to that person.
Well, that's and we run into that. I know a lot of guys that are professional firearms instructors, and frequently they'll get that guy. It's usually a guy. It's usually not a girl, but they'll get that guy who comes to the class, and it seems like the reason that person came to the class was not to learn, but to tell you how much they already know. That's not why we go to training. I don't go to training to tell the instructor how much I already know, or to impress the instructor with how much I already know. You go to training to learn. You should be asking questions to legitimately seek answers. Now, I said I'm not trying to be mean with you guys, but the fact is, be honest with yourself. If you already went out and spent $1,000 on a gun, don't write me and say, do you think this is a great gun for self-defense or for concealed carry or for whatever? Because even if I say no, what are you going to do? You already spent the money. Well, I already bought it. So, and that kind of goes back to the two books, the Armed and Smart, A Beginner's Guide. Because if you haven't spent the money yet and you're looking for information, you're looking for answers to some of your questions, and some of the questions are pretty basic. Most new gun owners have kind of the same questions. Well, what's the difference between calibers, and should I buy this kind or that kind or what have you? Or when am I allowed to do this, or when am I allowed to do that? That's what you want to do. Go ahead and pick up that resource. And we also, that's why we did the Armed Living DVD. We did the Armed Living DVD to answer the questions that hundreds, if not thousands of people have about when am I allowed. And here's the trick, or here's the premise behind the Armed Living DVD. Lots of people will talk about how to shoot. Some people will talk about when you should shoot. Almost no one talks about what now. So when it comes to defending your own life with a firearm, you need to know how to shoot. You need to know when you're lawfully or legally allowed to shoot. And then you have to consider what now? Because you can't just gun them down, high five your buddy, and walk off screen. That's not how it works in the real world. And you want to be armed, both physically armed with the correct tools, but you also want to be mentally prepared and mentally armed to deal with that situation before it materializes, not after. So the whole purpose of the Armed Living DVD is the how, when, and what now of armed defense, or being an armed citizen. So if you're interested in stuff like that, just swing on over to studentofthegun.com. Check it out. Don't forget about the Student of the Gun mobile app. If you've got an Android, if you've got an iTunes or an iPlayer, iPad, iPhone, whatever, you can download it for free thanks to our good friends at Century Arms. They are our official app sponsor. You can check that out. We also don't forget about our good buddies, the people who support us. The reason that Jared and I can sit here behind the black carbon steel microphones and talk to you guys every week is because of the support of our friends at Keltec Weapons down there in Cocoa, Florida, of Colt Firearms, of Crossbreed Holsters, and don't forget about our Excess Good Guy. If you want to be an Excess Good Guy of the Week, just go to forums.studentofthegun, post your question, because that's where Jared goes first to pull the questions every single week.
You said black carbon steel microphones, and it got me thinking that it would be pretty awesome if we knew somebody that could do microphone wraps with a custom design.
Microphone wraps?
Yeah, like a custom Student of the Gun microphone wrap.
Oh, I don't know.
Or engraving or something. Well, if anybody listening knows how to do that or knows anybody. I thought when I said black carbon steel, you were going to tell me I needed to put some frog lube on my microphone. Oh, yeah, you could put some frog lube on your sword right there.
Yeah, I do frog lube my sword occasionally because it is a high carbon steel. So there's that.
Is it black too?
It is black.
Okay.
It's black carbon steel.
Okay.
That's a good kind. It's good stuff. We're getting a little silly, folks. I know we are. So don't forget about the TV show. If you want to read the articles, every week we have a new article up on studentofthegun.com. You can check it out on the app, check it out online. You can watch the TV show, Dish Network Channel 266, every Monday night at 9 o'clock. That's 9 o'clock Eastern. But if you don't want to do that, just swing over to the website. You can watch the show. You can check out the archives and all that stuff. Thank you very much to everybody who writes in all week long. You guys out there in the audience are fantastic. You have become our eyes and ears across the nation, and we truly appreciate that. Now, we can't get to every single person's letter on the air every single week, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't keep trying. Now, don't forget, folks, you're a beginner once, but you should indeed be a student for life.